Hi, my name is Julie. I'm a writer and comic based in New York. I'm wearing an Old Navy bodysuit. Let's get into it. I have a movie review blog. If I learn how to link it, it'll be right there. And if I don't, it'll be a mystery to you. I love having opinions about culture. I love writing about that. And I'm doing the thing where you try to do something new that you're bad at. So we're on this journey together. We are firmly situated in Roku City. These are flowers my boyfriend got me. I have someone who loves me. Jealous. Okay, so the thing I want to talk about today is the book Elvis and Me by Priscilla Presley, which I read because there is a Sofia Coppola movie called Priscilla coming out in the end of October. Quick overview if you don't know who Elvis is or don't know who she is or grew up in a cult where they didn't let you see women with eyelashes, or you're a dog and this is on, and thank you for that because it'll help me towards monetization. So where my dog's at. Showing my arms to anyone ever is new and it's going well. Elvis and Me, Priscilla Presley. So a quick little overview. They meet when she is 14 years old. She's in the ninth grade. Elvis is stationed in Germany. Her father's in the military. That's why they're stationed there. Elvis got drafted and I don't know. They just decided that he should go, even though he was like the most famous person alive. Elvis is in Germany and there are people lining up outside of his house at all hours of the night in Germany to get autographs because he's so famous. And he sees a 14-year-old girl, well actually like someone who works for him sees her and is like, "Do you like Elvis?" And she's like, "What am I? Yes, I do. We all do. Everyone does. You do." And he's like, "I work for Elvis and I think he'd like you." Which, like, first of all, disgusting. The fact that your adult boss has such a strong taste for underage girls that you can clock them on sight feels bad. But so also Elvis lives with his dad because he also never grew up in a lot of ways. And so his dad like picks Priscilla up. He has to call her parents and like ask, and they are like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And he's like, "Nothing, I'm Elvis." And they're like, "This feels bad." And he's like, "My dad is gonna come. You can't be mad at my dad. He's my dad. He's safe because he's a dad." And Priscilla's dad was like, "Okay." So Elvis's dad, Vernon, gets her, brings her. This begins an 8-year-long relationship, however we're using that, in which she is very adamant that they did not have sex, which I believe her, but it's clear that they did a bunch of other stuff. Also, I don't know if I said it loud enough. She's 14. 14. And it feels like in the book that so first of all, it's really, really clear from everything she says and does in her tone and everything about the book that she like loves him still and is like trying to protect him and has nothing bad to say about him really. Like she is in it. She loves him and they broke up for reasons I'll get into later, but you know, I feel like she's playing some stuff down, and even through that, even through her like protecting him, what we get is still bad. So that's kind of shocking. So she starts to hang out with Elvis. First, his dad just will drive her and pick her up like nightly, and then he is not in Germany anymore. He goes back to America. He's like served his time or whatever we say about the army, and her father is still stationed there. So she's still in Germany, he's in America. And he has her visit him and like stay with him for like up to 2 weeks at a time. And this goes on until 2 years later in 11th grade. Just a jarring set of sentences. She has moved in with him at Graceland. Her parents, I feel very, very, very sad for because they kind of couldn't win. Like, it was either say no and your child like hates you forever, which she would have clearly, and like she says that. She's like, and how could you blame, I mean, all of it is wrong and it's no one's fault except for Elvis. And all of his like enabling kind of people, but her and her family, no one did anything wrong. It's just a really tough situation. Priscilla is like staying with him in 11th grade. 2 years after they meet, she moves in with him at Graceland. Meanwhile, she's still enrolled in high school. So she starts to have trouble because she is staying up with Elvis all hours of the night, but then she has to get up at 7 to go to school and like take tests and learn and try to be like a person there. And it's not going well. And so Elvis gives her sleeping pills and stimulants to help. There is also a weird thing where they give her pills that are no longer legal anywhere. And they give her so many, she's passed out for 2 days and no one contacts her family or thinks to take her to a doctor or a hospital. They just are sort of waiting it out. And she ends up waking up. But like that's the level of what's going on. Like Elvis is reckless and everyone around him is enabling him, and everyone just needs to hang and there's no other option basically. You just kind of do what he's doing. Or you get kicked out and no one cares and their world keeps revolving without you. So she's 16 and he's like, you know, every girl in her school has a crush on him. He's on the Billboard charts. Like I mean, it's just, you know, I was explaining to my boyfriend, it's like you can be a fully formed adult, and if you meet like your professor or your therapist, I mean, God, of course you're a therapist, but like even when you are legally an adult, if you meet someone and they're in a position of power where the dynamic is imbalanced, it's considered like unethical because you're not on an even playing field. So consent isn't as straightforward, you know, as it would be if everyone just had the same amount of power. So imagine, and that's like if you're like, you know, you could be 22 and that's the case. So imagine like this 16-year-old over here, and then the most famous person alive. I mean, who else? So it's just really bad. Okay, but so she finally manages to graduate from high school by cheating. There was like the last class and the last test, and she didn't fucking know it because she had been like, I don't know, like on a beach doing acid or something. They only did acid once, actually. She makes sure to say that. But, yeah, so she just copies off this girl next to her and promises her that she can meet Elvis. And so she graduates high school, moves in with him. Everyone else that she went to high school with, is applying to college or taking classes or starting a job, or, you know, they're pursuing and figuring out what they want to do in the world and what they like and who they are and what their interests are. And she is at Graceland alone. Elvis like wants her to stay there, and he controls who she sees, what she does, what she wears, what she says. The really famous photos of them from their wedding and like around this time, she has this huge, you know, big false lashes and cat eye makeup and like all this stuff, and that was all him. He made her, and she talks about like he would make her wear a ton of makeup and, you know, take her shopping and buy her these really like sophisticated clothes. And she talks pretty openly about how he formed her in his image of what a perfect woman is, and he like built her to be that. So, I mean, I don't know if we have a working definition of what grooming is, but I think finding someone when they're 14 and building them into your perfect woman is couldn't be a clearer, you know, that's what that is. So it's very sad, because also, so his career is, you know, in full swing. He's making movies, he's on tour, he's like doing all this stuff, and so he'll be gone for like weeks at a time, and she's at Graceland, and his grandmother lives there, and that's her best friend, his grandma. his like 80 or 90-year-old grandma, who they call Dodger, and that's who she hangs out with. A 16-year-old girl. It's brutal, it's sad. So, okay, a few years of this, fast forward, 8 years after they meet, she's 21, he proposes, and they get married. But because he's so famous and they're worried about it leaking, and I don't know what the fuck they were worried about, but basically she says that everything had to be rushed. As soon as they like applied for the marriage license, they had to rush to like a courthouse and just do it, because otherwise it would have been like leaked or something. And she talks about regretting that now, and wanting to have the people she wanted to be there. The only people that were there for her were her parents, I'm pretty sure. And like a lot of Elvis's friends, like it was too small, so it felt really rushed. They had family flown in, who then they left immediately. Like it just sounded like a rushed, a bad job, a bad deal. Should I wait? Is the lighting so bad? Oh, fuck. This is better. Fuck. Okay. Well, half the video is gonna be bad. Okay, I'm gonna move. Hold on. This is like a zillion times better. Okay, maybe I'll go and re-record. Maybe I won't. Only time will tell. But now you can see my makeup a little better. Okay. This is my body. Okay. So yes. So they get married, and it's rushed, and it's like not that fun. But she doesn't care, because basically the entire time that they've been together, since she was 14. Also, he has gaslit her. Well, so first of all, she's aware. She's like, I'm a child. He's like a hot adult. He is starring in these movies with these like femme fatales and like the sexiest women alive. And she, and so she's like always worried about losing him. And she never wants to be that far away from him, because she feels like if she's gone, then someone else could come in and take her place. So she just always wants to be with him all the time. And throughout this 8 years, she has been like finding letters tucked in his bookcase from women being like, thanks for the other night, like can't wait to do it again, like very clearly. Or she'll answer the phone and one of them will be there, or she'll see like articles in the newspaper with photos of him out on the town with his like female co-stars, his like leading ladies or whatever. And he has gaslit her through all of this, just lying and saying that she's jealous and crazy and wrong, and all this stuff. Even though like Anne Margaret was one that I forget how now actually, but she like had evidence, and she came and she said it, and he had like denied, and then finally he was like, yeah, we did, but it's over and it wasn't real. I don't know. So yeah, also there's stuff about how he was pretty emotionally abusive to everyone around him. So he had like an entourage like of people that just kind of lived with him, and he's paying their salary and supporting their families. And so I mean, what were they gonna do? And he notoriously has no capacity for like, I don't know, a ton of self-awareness or growth. So it's not like there were people who could like criticize him, and he would, kind of take it in spades and be like, oh, okay, let me think about this, or great point, maybe I shouldn't throw chairs when I'm angry at my friends. But that wasn't happening. So he was throwing Priscilla. I mean, he hit Priscilla in the face. He threw stuff at her. He hurt her like a few times physically. And then he would always, rush over and apologize and call her baby and, love bomb her or whatever. And she, yeah, she just took it on the chin. I don't know if we can say that. I have a lot of respect for her. I think she's incredibly like resilient and strong, and she did end up leaving him, and I'm just astounded at like what that would take to leave this person you've been with since you were 14, who's like all you've ever known. But anyway, so it's been not good. Then they get married. Also, the entire time they've been together, she wants to have sex. She knows she wants to have sex. She's really attracted to him. She wants to have sex with him. He has repeatedly the entire 8 years, according to her, which I believe, he's been like, no, we need to wait. It needs to be special. It needs to be right. We'll know when it's right, blah, blah, blah. And this was their wedding night. Like, the time that it was going to be special was their wedding night. So they have sex on their wedding night. And she's like really happy. This is all she's wanted for like almost 10 years now. Very, very, very shortly after getting married and having sex for the first time, they got married when she was 21. She became pregnant. She's still 21. It's been a few months since they got married. And she like writes in the book about how this was like really conflicting for her because she did want a kid, but not yet. Like, it was way too soon. She was really young, and she was really looking forward to spending, like, having a sexual relationship with Elvis, being newlyweds, like, having this part of her life that she had been waiting for so long. Elvis makes it really, really clear, and some people would call this pressuring. He makes it really clear that he wants her to keep the baby. So she does. She's 21. And she was like on the fence, and he like basically pushes her to keep it, so she keeps it. While she's pregnant, like weeks to maybe 2 months later, he initiates a separation. He's like, I need some space. I just like don't know. She is devastated. And she, at this point, she's like, fuck this. And she gets really mad. And, before the other times, like when he like, has these big scenes and she, it's this big like overture and they crescendo and then they come together and like blah, blah, blah. They had this like dynamic that was volatile, but like, had a pattern. And this, she just said like, she was done and this was too fucking much, basically. So she just, when he said that, she just started packing and she was like, okay, just tell me when you want me out. Like, okay. And then he freaked out and he was like, no, I didn't, whatever. So they never did the separation, but just imagine being 21 and in a pregnancy that you were reluctant about, and then the person who convinced you to keep it says that they want space from you. I would kill something that was once living. Is that an abortion joke? Who knows? I didn't mean it like that. I meant it like to strangle him, but if it works, it works, So, yeah. So, and she talks about how in the book, like, they didn't have the separation, but, just this feeling that she never had him, kind of. It's like that never goes away. Like, oh my God, also, almost forgot, during her pregnancy, she gained 10 pounds. 10 pounds. Because she said that Elvis always would lament and like go on and on and on about how women who get pregnant and have kids like let themselves go. And she was like, I'm not going to be like that. So she gained 10 pounds while pregnant. And up until like the 8th month, she didn't change anything. Like, she would still go on these really long car rides with them and just drop everything and hang out with them till 5 a.m. And, it'd be eating, he would eat a pound of bacon every morning. Like, she talked about how when they were newlyweds, she was really excited to like caretake him because he'd always had like housekeepers and stuff, and they moved into a place where it was just the two of them. And she was like, and so I already knew how to cook his breakfast, which is like 2 eggs and a biscuit and a pound of bacon. And it's like, ah. Anyway, so it's like incredibly depressing and sad to read about this woman's like childhood being vacuumed up by the ego of this man. But she's like loving life, honestly. Like, she's so happy. She loves her baby. But then he just like was not around. And she was so sad. And this went on for like a few years where he was very absent, and would have affairs and just be gone a lot. And she like, yeah, it just sounded not good. to the point where they just were living separate lives, but were married and like, had some things, but like their daughter. That's one of the things that they had. But and she had an affair during this time. Also, in the most like unexpected, amazing turn. So also, during all this, Elvis is very kind of lost spiritually, and he is always kind of looking for the next thing to sort of figure out. And he has different like religions and philosophies, and he gravitates towards like weird, like culty sounding people. But one thing that he's always done is karate. Like he loves karate, he studies karate, he has like a person that he takes lessons from who's amazing and like a champion, and they get personalized whatever. Anyway, and Priscilla throughout her entire time with him, like he's very controlling over what she I have the hiccups now. Over what she can and can't do. Like she had started modeling for a while and she was loving it and she was doing really well, and he made her quit because he needed her to be like always available for him. And so he wouldn't let her, and she started taking dance classes and she like loved that and she was like really enjoying that. And then someone else in the entourage was like, she's coming back really late. Like she's with other people coming back really late. I don't know. It just sounded but the karate, because he like loved it and he always wanted her to like the things he liked, when she took an interest in karate, he like loved that. So that was like one of the few things that she was allowed to do, which is a depressing thing to say. And so then she learns karate, and like through learning karate sort of like finds herself, like reconnects and finds her like identity and sense of self, and sort of realizes like, oh, this is bad. Like, I'm not being the person I want to be, and I don't feel free to do that, and I feel very stifled in this relationship and by this person. Also, she has an affair with the karate guy. God bless. His name was Mike, and he does karate. What else do we need to know about him? So she, at 27, leaves him. She tells him, she's like, look, we're living separate lives anyway. I just can't do this. I love you. We're in love, but it's just not working for me. And then she leaves. And they remain close and friends till he dies 5 years later, which is an insane timeline. And that's the book. I mean, the book opens with her learning that he has been taken to the hospital, and that's like the first chapter, and she's like getting on a plane trying to like get to him, and then the entire book is their whole relationship, and then the last chapter is we return to that moment and she finds out that he's dead, and her daughter is there who also, I mean, she's too young to understand, but and then just goes through like the funeral, and like she just is talking about in reflection, like a little bit past that, but not much. And then the book is just over. And it was really good, and I enjoyed it. It was very engrossing. Like, I would be reading it. I would be like on the train reading it, and I would be happy if I had like a 40-minute commute, because I could just like sit. It was so engaging, but it was very sad. Namely because, like, I think this is very common, and I think this happens all the time and a lot, and that's so sad. And I think, everyone owns their own story, so, like, however she feels about it, like, is true, and I want to, like, I can't take that away from her or whatever, but it does, to me, like, a no one, feel like the amount that she was protecting him, like, I think does come out of real love, but I think that what they had was more sinister maybe than she, because also a big part, she said, of like her kind of realizing she wanted to be on her own was seeing other couples outside of just his immediate friend group, where everyone kind of had the same dynamic, which is that the men are like the main person and the women just like support them. And she says meeting other people whose relationships had more equity, and like they would be partners and they would support and help each other and they would lean on each other. Like that just wasn't what she had. Um yeah, I don't know where I was going. I think that it's hard sometimes to look into something um because you're trying to navigate like your feelings about it, but the for the people who are in it, there's so much more nuance. But I also think it's true that sometimes something is so embedded in you and your identity, it would just be literally too painful to excavate and like interrogate and think about, like, if this was true, what would that mean for my life and all my relationships and all my history. I think like parents, you have that with parents, like, I don't know. I think that sometimes you just get too deep, and for self like preservation or survival, you just make a choice to be like, this was fine because I don't have the capacity for it to not be fine, if that makes sense. And I, not to put that on her, but that feels correct in this situation to me. But also, I do think genuinely she like loves him so much. But for me, someone who's like unconnected, it's clear that he's like a sexist, pedophile, like controlling, abusive person. And folks, that's life. You know, there's just two things living together and they can both be true. Yeah, so this book was really good, but the day that I finished it like in the morning and I was depressed. I'm depressed now. I feel sad. But then learning, my boyfriend told me that she goes on to have like an acting career. She's in The Naked Gun. She seems like funny and good. Um, and it's just insane. Like, I looked at some pictures of her when she's like an adult, and she looks like a completely different person. And not in a bad, not in any kind of judgment way, just like, it's insane how many lives she's lived when you're like a child bride. You know what I mean? Like, when you've had like one of the most serious relationships of your life, like at 21, you're already like 8 years in at 21. That's insane. Anyway, yeah, it was really good. If I had to give it a rating out of 5 stars, it would be 5. Some books are bad, and this book was not. This was a good book. She also had some really interesting insights that it felt like he should have fucking listened to her and given her, you know, credence for her opinion, which he never did. But like at one point, she loves horses, and she like mentioned that she would love a horse, and he's Elvis, so he bought her a horse, and then he got really into riding, so he bought himself a horse, and then the like 5 to 6 people of their entourage, everyone got a horse basically. And then they got like this huge other property because it had stables, and at one point like they had this huge massive farm almost, with a ton of horses, and it came with these animals. So I mean, they had this thing, and she's talking about how financially it started to be really expensive. But she talks about how no one ever brought up turning it into a working farm, which could have made a ton of money because basically everything was there. They would have just need to put a few more things in place to like make money. And she said that she feels like they could have made a profit, and then it could have turned one of his favorite hobbies into something that was financially lucrative for him, like another source of income, which was would have been really good at the time because he was sort of hemorrhaging money. Yeah, and so it's interesting that she, at, well, I don't know, 23, saw that, but no one listened to her, and now it's just a footnote in her book. Like, yeah, and then everything collapsed, but there kind of could have been a solution. It's like, I bet there could have been. Yeah, what else stood out to me? Yeah, it was just so sad. I read it on Libby. I'm a huge library head. If you don't, If you don't know, you should know. You can get everything you want, and it's free on there. Shoot, I already returned it. I wanted to like look through and remember if there's anything I'm forgetting. Okay. This was so fun. On my movie review blog, I always say if I would masturbate to the movie again, like, would masturbate again or would not masturbate, or, you know. And that doesn't feel right for this, but maybe I'll figure out a really fun rating system to do, because I always like that. But for right now, 5 out of 5 stars. Really excited. I think the movie is gonna. I'm really interested how she does the movie, because I think it's a really hard tone to capture, which is like the young love and excitement that's true to her, but also sort of acknowledging that this situation is unethical and abnormal in a way that is kind of sinister. But also not just writing him off as this evil guy, because that's not true for her. That's not what she felt at all. So that wouldn't be an accurate representation for this. So yeah, I'm really interested how Sofia Coppola is going to handle tone, namely. Yeah. Because also there's the thing that she could do, which is like presenting it face value for the characters, but like giving little hints to the audience, like this wasn't great, you know. So that's another route to go. Yeah, Sofia Coppola, I feel like, Lost in Translation, nail on the head. She got that sort of alienation, loneliness, um, when you're sort of engulfed in this idea of something much bigger than you that is like a city and alive. Like that movie just, I think, nails one narrow but also huge feeling, and that's so impressive, and it's so beautiful and well done. And then Marie Antoinette, I wanted to like so bad, and also I'm not above like just liking a movie for being gorgeous and nothing else. I've done that before, and I'll do it again. But Marie Antoinette, like, I think it just wasn't fun to watch. Um, it felt very like they have wigs, but Belle and Sebastian is playing, and isn't that fun? Or like they have Converse and like tulle corsets, like that. It didn't feel deeper than that. It just felt like this looks good and is cool, and that's all that we needed in 2010. I don't remember when that came out, but at the time I just remember being like, I wanted this to be funner. This could have been so much funner. So I'm really curious what she's gonna do here, because also I feel like she hasn't made a big movie in a while. Is that true? I can look that up. Let's see. Sofia Coppola movies. Let's see. Oh god, The Beguiled. I watched that on a plane, and I thought it was just gonna be like kind of hot, but it ended up being like sort of a play and weird. Jury's out on The Beguiled, I think. On the Rocks, I don't know. Oh, she did a very Merry Christmas. Oh my god, The Bling Ring. She is such a Tumblr core to me director. Like, oh, Virgin Suicide she did. Okay, and I loved that. Interesting. What's her deal, Sophia? Okay, I have to leave in 20 minutes. I'm gonna edit this later. I wish that I had found this lighting in the beginning, but that's part of the learning process. Okay. Books are great, movies are great, everything is great. Yeah. Okay, bye.